All right, guys, here we are. Is this our second one? I think this is our second iteration of the
Yeah,
series. I'm here with
yeah.
Brian from Honey Badger Radio and Honey Badger Arcade. How you doing, Brian?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on to talk about GoldenEye. It's actually one of my most favorite James Bond movies. Like sometimes it's number one, and it's like right up there. Like it's just like one of my top three Bond films.
It's one of those sometimes people ask me like my favorite game of all time, and it's always like between like two. So like one day I'll say one, the other day I'll say another. That's kind of the
Yeah.
way I think you probably feel about Bond movies. Like one day maybe you'll say Goldfinger, and the other day you'll say Goldeneye. I don't actually know your other two though. I mean, I'd be interested to hear though.
So the other one I really enjoyed was Casino Royale. Despite the fact that I still don't think that Daniel Craig is a great Bond. There's something like he's a little too rough around the edges. I don't like that he's blonde. I think he might even be a little bit short. He doesn't seem to fit in. He's not like Connery or Pierce Brosnan, or even Roger Moore. But like as far as a film goes, Casino Royale is awesome. Like the fact that they can make something so intense about a card game is really good. And of course, Mads Mikkelsen as Lashif is amazing in that. One of the thing that's really interesting about those is that GoldenEye and Casino Royale are both directed by the same guy, Martin Campbell, who also did another great movie that I love, which is The Mask of Zorro. So he's got like some good stuff under his belt. And I think that he was very, very good in terms of doing GoldenEye, you know.
Huh.
But yeah, I think that the one you're thinking of, I think it's the Casino Royale might be Peter Sellers, but it's been a very long time, and I didn't actually watch that movie. I just know that it's out there and that it was Casino Royale before Martin Campbell made Casino Royale with Daniel Craig.
Yeah, Daniel Craig to me, he just doesn't, for lack of using a 2011 millennial term, he just doesn't have the swag in the same way that Connery or Brosnan have. Like, not even close.
For
Like a lot of
sure,
like the
for
the, the
sure.
suave, like the attitude. He just doesn't. I don't know. There's like an it, and he's missing it. Maybe I'm just older or whatever. I don't really know.
Well, I really like Daniel Craig as an actor. So here's the thing that I think, and I know we're not talking about GoldenEye, but I just want to share this little bit of what I understand about how come Daniel Craig came to be Bond for the last sort of few movies. He did this one movie, and it was the first thing I'd ever seen him in, although I'm sure he's done stuff before. It was called Layer Cake, and it was this sort of like British crime thriller slash little bit of comedy. It's a really good movie. It's like I love Layer Cake, and he was really good in it. But he didn't play a spy or anything. He was basically a drug dealer that was very good at being a middleman. So he was playing this character that had to, think on his feet. He was dealing with dangerous people, but he was very rational, and he was all about like trying to essentially, make the most money without while also minimizing risk because he is dealing with very dangerous people. And it's a very good film in line with like, kind of like Guy Ritchie movies like Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but a bit more on the serious side than those are more comedic. And there's a scene in there where he sort of like, checks out this friend, this coworker's gun. And it's like the old Walther from the Bond movies. And there's a little scene of him sort of like, moving around the apartment, posing with the gun, kind of having some fun with it. And I think that was like his pitch to be like, I want to play Bond, and here's how I can do it. And then he got the job after that. And while I think he did fine in that movie, I don't think I'm with you on the fact that there's something, he doesn't have that it factor, that je ne sais quoi, that guys like Pierce Brosnan just like, it came so natural
Yeah.
for him to do that.
So I think
So
for GoldenEye, I like what we did with the Mist last time, where we kind of just went scene by scene. I think that was fun and interesting. So I mean, I think we should do that again. I have my notes kind of structured in that way too.
let's do it.
The intro takes place in 1986, where he's like jumping from the dam and all that kind of stuff. We'll get to that. But the intro takes place in 1986, and the rest of the movie takes place in present day when the movie came out, which was 1995. We talk about like the game as well. I think the game is probably more popular than the movie is, and it's a game that we've already played
which is a
together.
shame because the movie's great.
The
But
movie the
yeah,
movie is great,
yeah,
but so is the game. I think the game deserves a
yeah.
great it's one of my favorites for sure. But I love, the way that the game was able to, like, expand on these areas. Like, we talk about, like, the first level of GoldenEye, and it's the dam level, and there's, like,
Hmm.
all these things to do in it. They added all these objectives, whatever. But in the movie, it's, like, 10 seconds of him basically sprinting through the gate and then, like, bungee jumping down into, like, the facility. That's really all they
Yeah.
show. So, like, you'll notice, like, throughout the movie, like, if you played the game first, just, like, how expansive the game feels, which I think
Oh
is really
yeah.
interesting. And Rare did a great job. I'm not sure if is there a novelization of GoldenEye or was it a movie first?
Well, I don't know. I think it was a movie. It wasn't an Ian Fleming book. There may have been a novelization written after, because by this point, they were sort of writing original material for James Bond films because I think there were more films than there were books. And sometimes they would go back around, like with Casino Royale. But I think GoldenEye was its own because like EMPs as an idea didn't exist. Well, I don't think it was a thing in Ian Fleming's mind. But so yeah, I think it was like an original idea.
So then, like, either they had some sort of talk with people behind the scenes, like maybe like they had access to like a more further like fleshed out script or something like that, or maybe just Rare went on their
Mm.
own and decided to just expand. Either way, I think they did a fantastic job. But yeah, you start with the dam in the movie, and then Bond jumps down and into like the facility, and then you immediately see like the very famous part in the game where like you start off in the facility in the air vents and you like come down and like kill the guy taking a shit. And in this one,
That's right.
it's even funnier, because he's like not just standing there in the stall, like he's actually like pooping, and Bond just like judo
Yeah.
chops the shit out of him, which I've always loved.
Yeah, yeah.
I also want
Yeah,
to
you know
say that
that
that dam, by
oh,
the way, um,
mhm.
that whole section, it's supposed to take place in northwest Russia, but interestingly, it's filmed in Switzerland. And I wonder if that's because of just the time period of 1995, and Soviet Union hasn't been gone for long.
I did learn that they did shoot it in Russia at points, but maybe the dam, maybe there isn't a dam of that's that photo, photographable in that part of the world. But I do know that they did actually shoot it in Russia, and they actually used. Well, we can get into that a little bit later when we get to the scene with the tank, um, yeah, they did shoot parts of the film in Russia, if I remember correctly. And the thing about the bungee jumping, so I just want to say, as because I can speak about this from the perspective of somebody who's watched the movie a lot. so like what's interesting is that at this point there hadn't been a Bond film in a while. So the last Bond film was like in the 80s and it was Timothy Dalton. And the Timothy Dalton Bond films, while they did fine, they were becoming a little bit too cheesy for like audiences, right? Or at least this is what the perception was. And what was very popular though were these kind of like Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy style movies, like Patriot Games and The Hunt for Red October. And so when they wanted to bring back James Bond, but they wanted to give it a harder edge that was more in line with those types of films. And also, for whatever reason, bungee jumping was super popular at that time. Like it was a big thing. Like that, people were doing it, and it was being filmed everywhere. It was sort of like this extreme sports thing was becoming hot. And so that's why they opened the film with a massive bungee jump. I think it was actually one of the highest ever, or at least the highest shot. And it was obviously not Pierce Brosnan, like a stunt man do it. But that was like them trying to be like, kind of trendy. Like everyone likes the bungee jumping thing. And that's also why that film, GoldenEye, has like a grittier, feel than say like some of the Timothy Dalton movies like Living Daylights or some of the Roger Moore ones, which also got really comedic at points. So they really wanted to get back to like something a little bit more like grounded and hardcore. And that was what GoldenEye was.
That's
So I don't
really
know if you knew
cool.
that.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Also, side tangent, I miss like extreme sports and like the X Games and skateboarding, and that shit needs to come back.
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
stuff.
for
BMX,
sure.
motocross. I miss all that stuff. It was so big in like the 90s and the 2000s.
Oh yeah, for sure. The physicality was super big. I actually heard that Tony Hawk as like is working on some new game or some remake of a game or something, and he's getting like all of the. They're remaking some of the old Tony Hawk games. I didn't play them much, but my brother was. He loved them. He was so into that, like the one where you could play Darth Maul or whatever. Like,
They just
was,
remastered Pro
was
Skater 3 and 4, I believe.
yeah, I think that might be what I'm thinking about. And or there is one coming, and there was some controversy about some skateboarder guy that used to be on Jackass.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
Bam Margera. They wanted him like removed, and Tony Hawk said, "No, you're keeping him in."
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Tony
Yeah,
Hawk is
he said
unhateable. He's cool as fuck.
exactly. So but anyway, yeah. So that was the thing with the bungee jumping, and the point was because they were revealing Pierce Brosnan as the new Bond. So that's why you don't see his face until that shot in the bathroom where you finally see that it's him. Because people wanted him to play Bond for a while, and like even before he did that first movie, but he was contractually obligated to a show that he was doing called Remington Steele, which he had to finish. He was even doing commercials for cars, and he was playing a Bond type character in these old commercials. You could look them up probably. They were very funny. But yeah, when the Remington Steele contract ended, then he was able to do the Bond film. So it was like people were waiting for him to play this character for a while before he started doing it.
I wish I
Yeah.
was around for that though, because it does sound fun.
I was around for Moore and Dalton, so yeah.
So he
I
gets
know
into
I'm
the
old.
facility, he chops the guy in the toilet, and then he meets up with Double 006, Alec Trevelyan, played by Sean Bean, who is amazing,
Hmm.
and very predictably dies in every single thing he's in. Lord of the
Love
Rings,
Sean Bean
this,
though.
Oblivion.
Have you ever seen these guys in interviews? Like Sean Bean is like one of the humblest dudes I've ever seen. Like giving and Pierce Brosnan. They're both so down to earth guys. Like Sean Bean's so happy to get work. He's just these are lovely people. I wish I could meet honestly. Considering like how like I don't know narcissistic people in Hollywood tend to be. Those guys are very like down to earth.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, we have way too many of the Rachel Ziegler's out there at the moment. Way too
Exactly.
many. But yeah, it's we get into that into the facility and like they're arming like the bombs for like the gas canisters and all that stuff, and then you have General Urumov appear, with his Soviet troops. I don't remember that actor's name, but and I don't know anything else he's in, but he is amazing in his role.
Are you talking about Arumov?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. He's got a face. I love that character actually. When we played the video game at my friend's house, sometimes I would play Arumov because I just like the way he looked. He
he's
is
too
one of those.
cool. He definitely has the it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely has it.
The intro, like this whole everything that we've described so far happens like very quickly. And like Rare
Mhm.
did an amazing job fleshing these areas out in the game, especially like Facility is widely regarded as like the best level in the game. So it's crazy that they turned a toilet judo chop and meeting up with Trevelyan into something incredible. So good on them. So
Definitely.
so then we progress a little bit, and then Aramov is saying like put your weapons down, or whatever, and they've got 006 there on his knees, and I guess he gets like fake shot, like he gets because Aramov, as we find out later, is like in on it on this whole scheme.
Yeah. Spoilers for people who haven't seen the movie from 1995.
This movie will contain massive spoilers, but maybe it'll encourage you to finally watch it if you haven't, because it's definitely worth your time.
Yeah.
And then you can decide if you agree or disagree, like with our takes afterwards. Bully me in the comments if you want to. That'd be funny. But yeah, he gets like fake shot. The Bond escapes, and then we get to the third level of the game, which is Runway, where he's like running and taking the plane and leaving. And that scene was awesome.
Oh yeah. So the where he like jumps out the plane, he has to chase it down and he like falls after the plane gets in and pulls it out.
Yeah,
Some people thought that was like way too over the top, but I like that scene actually. I
I
mean
did too.
they because it's that opening scene, that whole sequence from him dropping into the base and meeting up with 006, and then they get everything goes wrong sideways. He has to escape, like the scene where he's like behind like the gas cans or the gas tanks, and he's like got to move it slowly while all the soldiers are pointing their guns at him. Like that's an amazingly tense scene, and then he has to like get out of there. That whole thing just sets the tone. Now you know, like this is how the movie's gonna be. It's
Yeah.
gonna feel like this, right?
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
it's a really like powerful sequence, and it kind of happens like the blink of an eye. I'll say
Yeah.
that just in general, the pacing of the movie is actually really fast. In some ways, it's like too fast to where like some people
Mm.
that have watched the movie with who've seen it for the first time like are missing like key plot points because sometimes like it just blows past you. It's kind of like the opposite of the Phantom Menace where they took 10 years on Tatooine.
Yeah.
So then like the facility explodes and you're kind of like meant to assume that like yeah, 006 was shot, and even if he wasn't shot, like the facility blows up and he's dead. And they have like Armov, like in there too, and you might assume that he died as well, but obviously like that's not
Yeah.
the case. They didn't really explain that. And I know that like even in
Well,
the game, like when you're escaping on the plane, like they didn't show like the facility
mhm.
blow up either.
Yeah, they show the facility explode, but I didn't really think like Arumov when I first saw the film. I didn't think he was going to be a character you would see again because I thought that that incident was its own little self-contained thing. Like he's finishing a mission and that's the opening, and then he's going to start a new mission, and that new mission's unrelated. It's kind of like, this guy's constantly working, so you don't think about it, but Arumov is outside of the building when it blows up, so I guess you could assume that he didn't die. But
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
wasn't. It wasn't even on my mind though. Like the first time I watched it, I didn't. I first of all, I didn't know who any of these people were. Like I didn't know like what their like how important of an actor they were, because that nowadays that kind of gives you an idea of like how much you can expect to see someone in a film if they're like a very famous actor. But I didn't know who these people were because I was too young. So
Right.
I think it looks like it looks like it would make sense if he didn't die. But Sean Bean's character, you see him it looks like he gets shot. So there's like no reason to think you'll see him again, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, which is why like
Yeah.
the twist becomes like so powerful at the end. So then like that ends the intro, and then like after this it becomes like current day. It ends with like that song that's like very typical like Bond fare.
Yeah, the Bond song is Tina Turner singing "GoldenEye." A lot of people like that Bond song a lot. I think it's one of the good ones, but it's not in my like in terms of Bond songs because they all have that same kind of sound. But I like that about them because it kind of keeps them all consistent. It's not my absolute favorite though. That one is pretty good though. The Bond song. And the video with all the cool visuals, like they do that too. It's usually
Yeah.
like sexy women doing things, smoking cigarettes,
Yeah.
you know.
Very, very typical Bond fare. But it's a
Yeah,
it's a pretty masculine movie, and I'm here for it. We don't get enough of those these
absolutely.
days.
Yeah, and then it cuts to the present day, like 9 years after the events of the beginning, and Bond is driving on what looks like the Autobahn or something, like really fast in his Aston Martin with a woman in the passenger seat. And we don't get context for it right away, but it looks like he's just doing what he does, right? He's just kind of an adrenaline junkie, and he is having fun. And we learn like right off the bat that the woman he's there with is like someone who's supposed to be assessing him or like analyzing his behavior or doing like a I don't know like a psychological profile or something.
Yeah, and he just totally seduces her for a passing grade.
Yeah, right. But
Very Bond-like.
he runs into a woman on the road that's driving like a red, Ferrari or something, and they end up getting into like a bit of like you could say foreplay on the highway kind of a thing where they're like, racing each other and they're cutting in front of each other and putting all kinds of shenanigans happen. There's like a bunch of like
A bunch of
what do you call
cyclists
them?
that
Cyclists
I wish were
that
run
fall
over.
over. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's our first
And
look
they're
at Xenia Onatop, who,
yes,
by the
yeah,
way,
Xenia
total
Onatopp.
fucking smoke show.
Absolutely. Like Famke Janssen absolutely kills it. Like she is the best villain in
The
like
best like
one
femme
of my
fatale probably in Bond history.
yeah, the best femme fatale. And did you know that the character of Onatop, which we meet again a little bit later, we go into more of her, but she was based on or partly inspired by a villain from another Bond movie or Bond novel. So there's a movie called From Russia with Love, and there's a villainess in there named Rosa Klebb, and Rosa Klebb is like this, kind of like dominatrixy woman, but she's like in the movie, she's a much older. She's actually the inspiration for, if you guys you ever seen Austin Powers, Frau Farbissima, the woman that's always like on there with Dr. Evil. Have you ever seen the Austin Powers movies?
I've seen all of them, but the only one I've seen somewhat recently is the first one.
Well, she's in all three of them, but basically her name is Frau Farbissima in the Austin Powers movies, but she is essentially just like a parody of Rosa Klebb, who was in From Russia with Love, who was also in turn the inspiration for Xenia Onatopp. Except Rosa Klebb used she had like a shoe with like a poisonous dagger inside of it. And they didn't do that with Onatopp. They made her definitely like she was much younger, much sexier, and she even used her body to like kill people, which we can get into a little bit later. But
yeah.
But it's interesting because they were essentially like taking that dominatrix thing and I think better applying it to Onatopp.
Yeah, I would say so. I just Googled a picture of her just to remember who that was, and yeah, 100%. Totally agree.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway.
Yeah, so like after the whole like driving scene, like you see Bond at a casino and he meets Xenia again and recognizes her from the car. And then we find out that Xenia is an ex-Soviet fighter pilot, which, will come in handy later. So what she does after that is, Bond is up and kind of like watching her like walk onto like this ship with this guy. It turns out that he's like the admiral, I believe.
Yes, she says this one is an admiral, and Bond says, "I like a woman who enjoys pulling rank."
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yes. Which of course, like Pierce Brosnan, like has crazy amounts of riz in this movie. Whenever he says something, everyone is like, "Holy shit, dude!"
So Xenia, is in there like fucking the admiral or whatever, and seduces him and kills him.
Actually, they don't actually have sex.
Yeah, it's a little bit like unclear exactly what they're doing.
It's unclear, but there's foreplay, and then she kills him. Like essentially, I don't think she ever actually has sex with anyone in the film. She just sounds like it.
Poor bastard didn't even get it.
Yeah, no, he didn't. He died smiling, which was a nice joke, but yeah.
Died smiling with the biggest blue balls you'd ever seen. Sad. A fate worse than death, really.
Yeah, really.
So yeah, he dies, and they take his ID, and then it switches to this scene of France showing off their new stealth like EMP hardened helicopter on the frigate, and then of course you're on the frigate for all of 2 seconds. But the game turns it into like a full like big level with like hostage rescue and stuff, which is really cool. And then Xenia kills the pilots and takes their place, and has like the helmet on and whatever, and gets into the EMP helicopter, and they just fly away with it.
Yeah. The French, they never saw it coming. They just watched them leave. I mean, they arrested Bond, but like they didn't even know who he was, and
yeah, they arrested the guy trying to stop it.
Yeah, they stopped the guy who was trying to stop it, and I thought it was a nice touch. I like to look at these little details where you see, Onatopp confronts the two pilots. She obviously uses her looks to like, entrap them, kills them, and then you see her getting on the helicopter, and you see her face putting the helmet on. I think it's when they're getting on, and there's another pilot, but they don't show his face. You just know there's another pilot, and they go out together, and you're kind of like it makes you ask, like, who's the other guy? Like, you don't even find out until later.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just take the helicopter and leave, and then I think
it changes scene to oh, I'm sorry if you had another thing about that scene.
Yeah, no, I was good. No, I was just gonna say I think they go to MI6 headquarters after that.
No. Like, the next scene is So the next scene introduces us to Natalia and Boris in the bunker in Cervanaya.
Yes, right. Yes, the Cervanaya scene. That's right.
Yes, so like we get to like see them like banter, and they have like a somewhat of like a friendship, I suppose.
Well, they show you that everyone who's there is this extremely isolated military bunker in the middle of Siberia or whatever, and there's a small crew there, and I guess they live there because they all know each other, or at least, or they work very close by. So they're sort of showing you that, you know, you have like the programmers and you have like the personnel, like the military people, and they're having a little bit of banter, and you can see that, you know, Natalia and Boris, and there's another woman named Anna, and they all know each other, and they have like their little spiel, and we see that Boris is kind of like, he's like a hacker, like that. The scene is to establish that he's a very accomplished hacker, and I love hacking in movies is so funny because no one knows what it really is.
Yeah.
You ever notice that?
Of course, yeah. It's just this random like 90s UI like pop up, and it just goes send Spike. Yeah, I did it. I sent Spike. It's like, okay, like that's
Oh no!
whatever.
And he puts in the password, and he like tells her it's like a riddle. But yeah, it's just it.
It also shows him as like a total fucking horn dog, which also is funny because I'm pretty sure the actor is gay.
Oh yeah, Alan Cummings is very gay. Yeah,
He
very,
does a
very
great job in this movie, though.
No, he's really great. I liked him in this, and he also did a good job in was it the X-Men movies? He played Nightcrawler in those. So
I know in the game,
the second one.
In the game, when you're in the bunker, in the first bunker level, which Bond never enters the bunker in the movie. But in the first level, you have to get him to like crack the terminal password, and the password is knockers. Yeah. Which totally checks out. When I was a kid,
right in front of you and can open very large doors.
Yes. When I was a kid, I didn't know what the fuck knockers meant, because it's kind of like a British slang more so than like American slang.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later I'm like, oh, okay, like the password is basically titties. That checks out for Boris, I guess.
No, they're door knockers. You grab. That's how you use them to open doors.
Well, Xenia certainly opens a lot of doors with her knockers in this movie for sure.
Does.
Like with those pilots that she murdered. Yeah. You know, like about like, so we see Boris, but we also see Natalia, and you know, I've always commonly heard that like Natalia is like the ugliest Bond girl, and I think that's kind of crazy. Like, I don't think she's like a 10, but she's not ugly at all. I think she's really overshadowed by Xenia, though.
Oh, absolutely. That's the I think that Natalia is. Unfortunately, she is handicapped by having to share the screen with Xenia. There's like no competition.
Yeah.
She looks kind of like, she's not ugly, but she's kind of like she's got this kind of, let's say, like generic supermodel look. And I know generic and supermodel sound like oxymorons, but you know, like there's like a certain, I don't know, it's almost like a cookie cutter supermodel appearance.
She's like both pretty and plain at the same time.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and the woman who plays her, she didn't do, I mean, she's done some work, but she hasn't been in a lot. So it's like she hasn't done much since. So everybody knows her as this character from GoldenEye. That's basically all she's known for, mostly.
Right. She was also really ugly in the game, which did not help.
Yeah, well, everybody is. They got like big shoulders, right?
Yeah, they're like totally square. They're totally square, except for like Xenia in that game had just like these cones for tits.
Step aside, Lara Croft. Yeah.
This movie also birthed the "I am invincible" meme, which is incredible.
Yes.
And I try to use that as much as applicable.
Yeah, that was Boris's tagline, which, again, I think he says it like 3 times in the movie, I think. And, like 3 or 4 times. And it's like his catchphrase, which it's a setup for a joke at the end.
A very good one. Yeah.
Yeah, a very good one, but yeah.
So then, like, we see, we're still in that same scene, and we see Arumov arrives in Severnaya with Xenia, and they say that they're going to test fire the GoldenEye satellite, but, you know, then Xenia kills all the soldiers and scientists in the bunker very sadistically and kind of sexually. She's definitely getting off to this.
Yes, she definitely does. And that the thing is, too, is that's when you realize Arumov is still alive, because that's the first time you see him after the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to see there's like a connective tissue, right? Like you start to see the threads, because, you know, at first it looked like Xenia was operating on her own. You knew she was working for somebody, but you don't know who. They mentioned Iannis, but that's all. It's like some kind of crime syndicate. And then you see Arumov, who was the other pilot, but now they show his face and he's in uniform and everything. And then, I mean, it's just supposed to make you like ask more questions, like, oh, why is he alive? Why are they together? What is he doing? What's the GoldenEye, right?
I think there's also a
So
mention that when you see him in the intro in '86 versus '95, he was a colonel, but now he's a general, and
yes,
you'll see later that he's like
yes,
very high profile. He's kind of like regarded as like a hero, and
yes,
so like
right.
that's why
Yeah, and
like
he's
people were very skeptical of him like being behind all this kind of shit.
right, and also he was very much like a Russian nationalist type, of guy, like a holdover for the Cold War, as opposed to like this comes up later, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, he's basically like a very devoted to the Russian like ideal, at least as he saw it. They called him the next Iron Man of Russia, is how they described him, right? And it's also kind of interesting that they in the first scene he's got like red hair to make him look younger, and then when he comes back, he's got gray hair, which is actually his normal hair color. I don't know if you
No, I
noticed that.
didn't. I did not notice that. That's
Yeah,
a good
if
detail to
you
pick up, though.
watch it next time, you'll see that they made him look younger in the first scene. He's got like red hair, and he's got more of it, and then like later, the 9 years later, he's got gray hair. So it's a nice attention to detail that they put.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I can't believe I
Yeah.
didn't notice that. Good shit though. So then, like when Xenia is fucking creaming her pants, like shooting all these guys, Natalia was went off to go hide, and Boris was spared because we don't find out till later that he's in on it. But like he just like, oh, I'm gonna go out and have a cigarette, and that's when like the
Yeah,
helicopter touches down with Xenia and Oromov in it. But yeah,
yeah. It's like
Natalia
right
goes
after
and
he leaves. Yeah.
he goes in like, or sorry, she goes and tries to hide in the air vent at first, and like they kind of do like a fake out where like we think that she got into the air vent, and Xenia like finds the open air vent and like shoots it, and like it's like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, there was one in the vent, and I killed her or killed him, whatever. But then you find out that like she was actually like she gave up on that and started like hiding in like the cupboard instead.
Another good move. Yeah.
And then like you find out that they're firing the GoldenEye on like Servanaya itself in order to, I guess, like destroy all the evidence and everything that like came with it. So that's when MI6 kind of like got clued in on this. So like we just observed like this satellite firing on this Russian base. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like while this stuff is going on at the Servanaya base, at the same time, Bond is at MI6, and he's basically like giving his report or whatever he's discovered after the helicopter disappears. They like find, they at that time while he's like arguing with or kind of talking to like I forget the guy's name, but there's like the guy who's like in the computer room with all of the screens, and then Judi Dench, who plays M in this one, and they're sort of talking, and that's when they see the EMP hit from the GoldenEye, and they don't know what caused it, but like all of their instruments are down for a little while, and they're like trying to play catch up.
They can see the
Meanwhile,
helicopter escape, and like they
yes,
recognize like that's the EMP hardened helicopter. And so like when the Russians like scramble like MiG fighter jets to intercept the
oh yeah, that's
helicopter,
right,
the
yeah,
EMP takes out the jets so that the helicopter gets away.
right, because
Because otherwise the jets would obviously catch it.
yeah, one of the soldiers inside the base hit the alarm, and Orumov, who knows the military, he says their best response time is like 12 minutes. They'll be late or something like that. So
Right.
it's like showing you that he knows how all this works, and that's why he was chosen to help steal the satellite,
Right.
because he was very close to everything that was going on. So
Absolutely. Yeah, he had all the
yeah,
deep insider knowledge of everything, being such a
yeah,
high
yeah.
rank.
The EMP hits, and
The MiGs
we
crash into
see
the satellite dish
yeah,
and blow the
yeah, the
satellite dish
mix
up.
crash. Yeah. And only Natalia survives.
Yep, and
With,
she leaves
like,
the
we have,
bunker
we,
because she tries to find Boris because, as far as she's concerned, like they're friends and he had nothing to do with it, and she was worried about him,
yeah, exactly.
not knowing that
And
Boris was a real motherfucker.
yeah, yeah. And while that's going on, the Brits are trying to, figure out like what just happened. And at that point, what's interesting too is that you have there was a conversation going on between like Bond's guy. I don't know the guy's name, I forget, but he was like one of the guys in the main computer room, and Bond's theory or his instincts that tell him that the GoldenEye exists, and M and her people saying that like there's no there's no accounting for this. There's no like the data they have shows that they couldn't exist or that they couldn't afford it or something, right? And it turned out he was right and M was wrong. And this was important because she takes him to another, office so they can like talk about it, and she
We'll get
sort
to
of like
that.
makes.
That's a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
further ahead, but we'll definitely get to that.
it's a little further ahead. But yeah, but like what I'm saying is that it essentially what they established there is that Bond's instincts are correct and M's like sort of, data is incorrect. And
Right.
that's why Bond ultimately is the guy for this mission.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. That's a good
Yeah.
analysis. Also, before we blow past it, I want to say, like, as far as like, there's no real basis for the surface or bunker levels in the game because Bond never went there. But it's really cool
Yeah.
still that they turned like every possible, pretty much scene or location into like a fully fleshed out level. And it really like
Yeah,
playing the
because
game. It really makes you feel like you're there, like you're watching the movie. Like, oh yeah, like I've been there. Like I know the layout. It's pretty interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
so like when they're in the
absolutely.
computer room at MI6, which I guess is like the only scene that they don't have a full level for, the Giannis group
Oh yeah, I
is
guess not.
mentioned, and MI6 claims that there was someone there on the inside, and they also have like a
Mm-hmm.
really interesting line. It was like governments change and the lies stay the same.
Yes.
Pretty
That
based
was Bond's
actually.
line. You're right. He's talking about the awesome.
And
Show.
then we
Show.
get to the scene where M and Bond are talking in her office.
That's right.
But she's
And
like
that's
dressing him
where
down like as like
yeah.
a relic. But at the same time, and this keys into your observation that you made, she recognizes that they really, what no matter what her opinion of Bond is on a personal level, like she needs a man like that in order to get shit done.
Yeah, exactly. Because ultimately, the thing is with this new Bond was trying to be a bit more like modern, right? The people who made this film were still in their minds to some degree because it was the 90s. They were trying to get away from what they thought were kind of like, sexist or problematic aspects to older Bond films. And the truth is, the goalposts are constantly moving. Like, so, like back then when they made this movie, they thought this is really progressive, right? So we made M a woman. They comment on that multiple times in the film, and she does give him a dressing down. But they're still at that time, at least, they were still like, look, this is a James Bond movie. He has to be the man. We can't really mess with that, So we're not going to too much. So we're still going to make it to where his relationship with M is, you know, she has her like her opinions of him. She says, I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur or something like that, relic of the Cold War, which is also something that, in a way, the writers are reckoning with because James Bond was essentially a spy like story written around the time of the Cold War. But now that the Cold War was effectively ending, they had to keep telling stories without changing the character too much. So they said, okay, well, we like Russia is not a thing anymore, or the USSR is over. But what we'll do is we'll have, we'll treat the whole thing like all of these are elements that are left over, i.e., relics. So it wasn't just Bond that was a relic of the Cold War. Orumov is a relic of the Cold War, and we'll talk about it later. But 006 is a relic of the Cold War as
Hmm.
well. So these are all like holdovers from a time where Bond was more relevant. So there had to be an acknowledgement of that, but also we had to they were trying to present something new, which is why again you have the computer hacking and the EMPs, which was like this new thing people were talking about, and the bungee jumping and the the smart independent female programmer that was kind of like which we get into later, but like she was basically an independent woman, and in the same way that M is in charge of MI6, right? So this is why that conversation happened, where she had to dress him down a little bit, but ultimately they still had to say, you know what, but this is your movie, so we're going to essentially put you on this mission, and we'll leave it at that. And I think that's what they were trying to do, was like they were trying to like compromise with modern sensibilities for the time while also still like paying proper respect to what it is they were doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's
It would be
about
considered completely regressive today still, but at that time they were making progress. So,
absolutely. So then, like in that same conversation, Bond was ordered not to get revenge for 006 on Ormov.
yes.
And then the scene ends, and the next one starts, and it's Ormov meeting with Defense Minister Mishkin in Moscow because
Yeah.
obviously, like, they're aware of the GoldenEye thing, and that's when Ormov blames Siberian separatists and offers to even resign. And then
Mhm.
Mishkin mentioned that there is a survivor, there's someone unaccounted for, and it was Natalia. And then Ormov has like that oh shit look. because now
Yes.
someone out there knows like he didn't clean up entirely. And Mishkin is actually very suspicious. He kind of grills him a little bit. Like you can tell, like despite Oromov's status, he doesn't really trust him.
Oh yeah, no, Mishkin is looking for a reason to
Oh, yeah.
like do something about this guy. Like I don't know if it's because they don't really go into Mishkin's like specific agenda. He's kind of a smaller character, but I think an important one because he creates that he is definitely an obstacle that Orumov has to work around. There's something about the way the Russian government, the direction of the Russian government at this point is something of a problem for Orumov's goals, which I think is what they're trying to touch on, but they can't spend too much time on it. So
yeah, it's also probably, like, in my opinion at least, like an issue with how fast paced the movie is. As I would have liked that fleshed out a little bit more, but you still kind of get what they're going for.
Yeah, you get you can do it like in a couple of scenes, and I think that you can do that, but it takes some skill.
And then after this, you get a scene that feels somewhat out of place, but it's also like one of the best scenes in the movie, and that's when Bond is in the Q lab. And so, like,
oh yeah,
you get to see the guy who plays Q, by the way, is amazing. I don't know his name, but
yeah,
he's great. You get to see like
his name is Desmond Llewellyn, and he's been Q for a very long time. Like I think for most of the movies, he played Q.
Good.
Which, if you watch the movie, and I know this is going to be very depressing, but if you watch the movie, you can see that Q, the guy who plays him, Desmond Llewellyn, at this point, he's actually like a bit senile because he doesn't give Bond eye contact for parts of that scene. It's very unfortunate, but he was very old when he was doing that movie. And he made a few more after that. He was in a couple more. He just was so devoted to it.
He was great. But I love him. And he shows off like the wheelchair cast missile launcher, which was hilarious. The telephone booth airbag, like there's like gags like in the background even. The explosive pen, which they had a funny interaction about, and I won't spoil it yet, but it does come into play later. Becomes very useful. And then we change scenes and go to Russia, where Bond meets with Jack from the CIA. Who tells him about the ex-KGB agent Valentin Zukovsky, played by Robbie Coltrane from Harry Potter, who did Hagrid. And they're talking about like,
Robbie Coltrane, very good.
Yeah, he's like Russian mafia, cool. And he walks with a limp, and Bond's like, "Who do you think gave him that limp?"
Yep, that's a great line too. That's a great line that they use that to bring them together, so that it gives them history. It actually made me think that there was a movie with that character in it from before, but I don't think there is. But it didn't matter. They did a good job. No, I don't think there is. Yeah, Q was that guy played Q in Goldfinger, 1964. That's how long he's been doing. Been playing Q.
Shit. Well, good for him.
Yeah.
Because I really like seeing him. Then we go to another scene. Natalia goes to a computer store to message Boris and warn him, not realizing that he's a rat. And so like she trusted him. And so they go and meet at like a Russian Orthodox church, but it was a trap.
Very cool.
Very cool. Very good cameo. But yeah, then it was a trap and she's taken away. Switch scenes again, and now it's Bond meeting Zukovsky. It starts by like him putting like a gun to the back of Valentin's head, and he goes, "Oh, Walther PPK," and he lists like the European designation, but in 32 ACP, which is actually the only scene that actually denoted the caliber of this gun, because it comes in 2. And so I remember there was actually a lot of debate that you can see from like older conversations about like what caliber the gun is in, or even like newer ones, and they reference this scene to note that. But he was like, "Yeah, there's only one man I know who uses a Walther PPK and 32 ACP, James fucking Bond." And then they talked about how like he crippled him.
He says, "I only know 3 men who use this gun, and I believe I killed 2 of them." And that basically narrows it down. Yeah, which
is a great line.
So it's a great line because it tells you how well he knows his guns. It tells you how well he knows who Bond is. It also tells you how vicious he can be. Absolutely. So you learn all these things in one line. Yeah.
Great writing overall in this movie.
Very good. Very good dialogue. Yeah.
So then he gets some information from Valentin talking about Giannis, who's Leanne's Cossack, which isn't apparently obvious to everyone, but they kind of explain it a bit. But they're like, from what I understand, Russians who helped the British during World War II, and then England backstabbed them in the end.
Yes, the Leanne's Cossacks. That was actually a really cool bit of information. This is one of the things I really appreciate about these movies that do a little bit of that homework, I think this is what, where that sort of like, what I was mentioning in the beginning when I said that they were trying to like move Bond in a direction that was more in line with like the popular kind of spy thrillers of the time, like these Jack Ryan movies, like these Tom Clancy movies where there's a little bit of history, and they do that with the Leanne's Cossack. I actually, when I watched it the second time, I was like, dude, I've been meaning to look these guys up, and I did. I looked up the Leanne's Cossacks, and that was a whole other rabbit hole. It was like super interesting, and I thought, man, it's so cool that they brought that in and like made it part of the story, because they didn't have to do that, but it just brought more authenticity to it, and it
Yeah.
made it relevant. And what was really funny is I watched a video about the Leanne's Cossacks, and I looked in the comments, and everybody was making references to 006. So I was like, oh, that's super cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's a very interesting bit of trivia about the Cossacks. Yeah.
It's really cool though. I think it just gives like another element of like realness and depth to the story.
Yeah. By the way, if we're still in the scene with Valentine in the bar, there is a cameo in that movie.
Oh, it's the singer,
a cameo. Right? The singer, yes. Yeah. So like the thing is, it's interesting because she's not known now, but she was then. So there was an actress named Minnie Driver who was very big, did a lot of rom-coms and stuff, and she did the cameo as his wife singing, Stand By Your Man poorly. And that was just a cameo, and we don't see her again because that's all it was. And every time I see that scene, I always say it's Minnie Driver, but no one knows who Minnie Driver is anymore. So like it's like it's weird because it's like a cameo that has no meaning because the person's not famous, anymore. So,
right.
But yeah, that was interesting cameo.
Yeah,
Minnie Driver.
That does make me think about like modern movies that do cameos. It's like no one's gonna remember this person in like 20, 30 years.
Exactly. That's right. That's what I was thinking about. Like there will be movies that we have seen that have cameos in them now that we will see years from now, and people will be like, what was that? Like, you'd have to be there to know. I think there was like Ben Affleck has done some cameos that I think.
Oh, he's always in like the Kevin Smith movies as like cameos and stuff.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. But like he's somebody that but like you never know. Like because it was like sometimes you don't know how long someone's star power is going to last. So yeah, Minnie Drivers was kind of here and gone, but yeah, nonetheless, what happened after scene, this? He tells him he's a Leanne's Cossack.
Yeah, next scene, it switches to the next scene. It's Xenia doing like trying to seduce Bond at the pool where they do like
the bathhouse scene.
Yeah,
that's a great scene
where they do like this like weird like sex / fight thing.
She is smoking hot in that scene. Like
I remember like my wife giving me the side eye. She's like, "This bitch is crazy," and I'm just like, "Yeah, it's hot as fuck. Yeah, absolutely." She was like, "You're into that?" I'm like, "I would marry her," but yeah, fuck
no, but it's just the way like Famke Janssen like she killed that role. Like I don't think she's done any role as well as that. And she played like Jean Grey in the X-Men movies and stuff, but that was her best. Like her best work was that, and you could tell she was having so much fun playing that character too.
Had to.
Yeah, she must have. So anyway, yeah, they meet up in the bathhouse. They have like a bit of a again, it's more of this cat and mouse thing where are they going to fight or are they going to fuck?
Right.
And it turns out that she gets him a little bit. Like he starts to give in. Because he can't help it. But then he realizes what's going on. She's not playing the way he wants to. And so he sort of judo flips her. There isn't like a bath scene in the game, is there? Like this scene is not in the game, right?
No.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't have put that in there.
I don't think so.
But no. But then there's like another one of the great lines, like when he like judo flips her, and no, before that, where she says you don't need the gun, and he says, well, that depends on your definition of safe sex.
So many wonderful one-liners in this movie.
Yes.
So then like he captures like Xenia, like at gunpoint after, resisting his massive hard-on. Yeah. He knocks her out and has her take him to meet Yanis at Statue Park in St. Petersburg. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, he judo chops like 3 people in this movie, which I think is probably why in the game that's what the melee is. which is really cool.
Yes, that's absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, slappers
That's like a
only have become like
staple.
legendary as a result.
Slappers only.
And so then, like, he goes to Statue Park, and it's like kind of he's like getting like spooked by these weird Soviet statues and shit. It's kind of like got a spooky vibe, and then Yanis like steps into the light, and it's 006, which was like kind of like the big twist. You didn't expect 006 to be alive,
And
and
he's
then
like scarred up.
yeah, because I guess he was hurt in the explosion. Because
Yeah, but
because Bond when they were captured or spotted, he ended up like lessening the timer from like 6 minutes to 3.
mhm.
And so like 006 thought he had like more time to escape than he really did, and he's definitely very clearly and openly butthurt about that.
Yeah, definitely. But it also kind of like again leans into there's like a motif, where because he's Yanis and Yanis is like the two-faced Roman god, which there's lots of allusions to, like he's two-faced and the Cossack thing, but also the scar has a bit of a two-face look to it, right? Like they didn't go all the way in on that, but he's scarred on one side of his face, so it's like he has two faces.
I
So
didn't I didn't
that was
actually even make that connection, but that's actually pretty
yeah.
brilliant now that I think about it.
Yeah, that's it because it's only on one side, and that's I mean, it's not like I said, it's not like Batman Two Face where it's like right down the middle, but I think that they were definitely like there was lots of things in the motif they were bringing together, like the Cossacks were betrayed by the British. He was a Cossack. He's betraying the British back in a way, so he's two faced and he has the two faces, and so it's all it's very cool. Like it's a very like tight little concept that they were pretty good on delivering.
Yeah,
Well.
and he even talks about how like MI6 was aware that his parents were Leanne's Cossacks. They talk about
Yeah.
like how his dad was like so like ashamed and everything, and like killed himself and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But they figured that Trevelyan was too young to remember, so it was kind of like a non-issue.
Yeah, that's right.
But he did
So
remember.
basically both orphans, and it's weird. They gave us a little bit of like James Bond's origin, which I don't think I ever heard it before that movie. That his parents died in a climbing accident or something.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what the story is. Who knows? They might change it. But that was like a weird bit of Bond trivia that I didn't know.
Yeah, or perhaps that's what the British intelligence agency wants.
Told him, yeah.
And then Bond gets hit with like a blowgun dart and strapped into the helicopter with Natalia, like rigged to explode. And this is actually like their first meeting, which is super different from the game, where in the game they're both like imprisoned in like in the Servanaya bunker and have to escape. So
weird.
Very, very different. Big departure in that respect.
It's not a self-destruct though. The helicopter launches missiles
you're right.
at
You're
itself.
Right. It's a self-destruct in the game. But you're right.
Yeah,
they shoot the missiles and it's like heat seeking and it like locks onto itself, but they like loop back, which is cool because it gives you like a really good like visual.
Yes.
But you're right. The self-destruct
and it also,
is in the game.
Again, it increases the tension because you see the timer go down. You're like, he's never going to get on time. And then it counts to 0 and the missiles launch. And then you're looking like, well, what's that about? And so like, there's like a pause, like a pregnant pause, and you see the missiles go, and then it shows what it's locked onto, and they start to turn around, and then you and Bond both panic at the same time, and he's like, we gotta get out of here. And fortunately, for whatever reason, they didn't do anything about the eject button that's like right next to his head, which he uses to like eject the seat so they can escape. He headbutts it so they get out. While this woman is screaming at him, by the way.
Yeah, because she doesn't know who he is, or she doesn't know what the fuck is going on. She's just full panic mode. It's kind of like we were talking about The Mist last time, where Andrea, like David Drayton's like reaching for the gun in the hood, and she's just fucking screaming.
Yeah, exactly.
Just full blown panic, not helping at all. So then that happens, and then Defense Minister Mishkin's and his men like pull up after the explosion and take Bond and Natalia to the archives interrogation room, which in the movie is like where they actually like talk, like who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? Whereas like again like in the bunker prison is where they did it in the game. So very different in that respect. Yeah.
So he basically starts to interrogate them, or at least is going to ask them questions. Bond makes a crack about.
Well, before that, like when they're talking, like Natalia reveals to Bond that Boris is the rat.
Yeah, that's right.
And then like Mishkin comes in, and like you're saying, like they start interrogating him, but Mishkin thinks that Bond and British intelligence were behind the GoldenEye, just pretty much just because he was found in the helicopter with Natalia. So like they were either going to be killed or framed. You know, like Plan B is the framing, right? And
Yeah,
then
it would have worked out either way.
yeah, and then like Natalia reveals that there's a second GoldenEye, which is why like destroying the one in Cervania was not a massive deal for them.
Yeah, that's right. And then a sweaty and panicked Arumov runs into the room, right? And he looks like he has been running. Like
He looks like he just completed a fucking marathon in his full uniform.
Yeah. And he immediately goes in and he's like, you know, this is my investigation. Like, I have to protest this and all that. Then, you know, essentially Mishkin confronts him about what they know. I think that at this point, well, I mean, if you want to, I think that at this point, Arumov feels trapped, so he just shoots Mishkin and the guard.
Yeah, he shoots Mishkin and the guard with Bond's gun, and then
he takes the gun
and then
off the
unloads
table,
Bond's gun and gives it back to him, and then goes like, "Holy shit! Like guys, guards, like they fucking
they did
the
this.
spy shot Mishkin."
Very smart, by the way. That was like quick thinking on his feet. He was like, "Okay, here's what I'm going to do," and he does it like right away.
It's in the game. Mishkin doesn't die. Actually, in the game, when you beat the archives level, you meet up with Mishkin at the end after rescuing Natalia, like from her interrogation room, and he goes like, "Yeah, like you're right about Arumov. You know, here's the black box of the helicopter. You know, like take it and leave."
Yeah.
So very big departure in that way too.
I wonder. No, I'm pretty sure that the GoldenEye game came out a while after the movie.
Yeah, like 97 or 98.
Which
is why it almost got canceled, because it was like, is this game even relevant anymore? Like, you're 2 or 3 years late, you know?
Yeah, well, obviously it was.
Thank God they released it, though, because it sold very well. It revolutionized the console FPS and FPS games in general.
Absolutely.
And it was just fucking awesome. The soundtrack is killer. Wonderful game.
Yeah. Bond and Natalia escape for a while. They're running around in the archives, and Arumov's chasing them with a bunch of soldiers. There's a bunch of gunfights. And at one point, Natalia falls through the they're like on 2 levels, and she falls to the bottom, and the guards catch her.
Yep.
And Bond has to pursue. I mean, before that, he did use that. He used his belt, right, which is one of the gadgets he got.
Yeah.
It doesn't really. I think that's the only time he uses it. So, but yeah, they capture her, and then he has to chase them. And that, for whatever reason, I don't know what the idea was, but Arumov just takes her. And he runs with her, and he just tries to get out of there. Like whatever the plan was, like kill Bond and frame him. He was done with that. We're just gonna take the girl, and we're just gonna leave.
I think he was just panicking to kind of regroup and come up with something.
Yeah,
you know. And then they're in a car, and Bond finds a tank.
This was my favorite chase scene in any movie is the tank chase. And one of the things that was really cool about this too was director Martin Campbell. The guy who directed this movie, he loves practical stunts, like his big thing. That's why the Mask of Zorro is so good, and Casino Royale doesn't have a lot of stunts in it, but a lot of his movies, he's big on that, like actual physical props. You know, with using as much authentic stuff as possible. The tank was real. It was a real Russian T-54 and T-55 tanks. They had a couple of them. They bought them for cheap because it was after the Cold War. And they actually filmed it in St. Petersburg with local approval. So that whole sequence was shot in St. Petersburg.
That is super cool, by the way. And obviously practical effects age the best by far.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What I really loved about this scene, too, is usually, like, when there's, like, a chase scene, most of the time it's, like, panicky in the sense where, like, the protagonist is, like, running away from, like, overwhelming force or whatever. Think of, like, like even, like, the runway scene, you know, where Bond is fucking flooring it to get this, like, plane and escape. It's not that often that you have the protagonist chasing with a tank versus, like, the antagonist in a car.
He's the threat,
he's the danger.
Right?
And I really like that. You don't see that nearly as often as I think you should.
And also, just watching a tank do like freaking power sliding, like around corners and going as fast as it does too. Like, we know tanks can go fast, but most people at that time, we didn't think of tanks as fast moving vehicles. But yeah, I mean, that thing was booking, and it was taking corners.
When
and
Arumov thought he was being slick and going through alleyways, he would just blow through the whole fucking area and didn't care.
Yeah, and it was also fun watching Arumov, like, like he start drinking from a flask. Like he's just really freaking out. This guy won't. He's throwing everything at him. The cops are there. They're trying to stop him. Like it just gets absolutely
And I don't know if
chaotic.
you
And then
noticed
like,
this, but Bond never killed
hmm?
anyone either. Like when he was in that tank, like even when he was like running over cars,
No,
like it would explicitly show them getting out
yeah,
of cars first. So like as far as
yes,
the movie shows, he
yes.
never killed any innocents either, which is like kind of good for like like the whole like good guy thing that Bond is going for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they had to do that, right? Because they would definitely show him run over a car, and then they would show a guy getting out. Like, what happened? And it's like, how did you live? like, but yeah, I mean, they had to show that. And I thought that was really cool. And then obviously the theme is playing while this is going on, which is like just like really, really great scene.
Do you
You
remember the
want to tell me
part
about the cherry? Tell me about the cherry on top of that scene, though.
by cherry on top? Are you talking about the statue that was on top of the tank?
After that, but yes, like right after the statue thing is very cool, and then like the cars are chasing him. He hits a low bridge. The statue gets hit. It hits there, and then it falls on top of two police cars. Obviously, doesn't kill the cops, but it stops the vehicles. But what's great is when he looks back to see if they're okay, and then he like faces forward, adjusts his tie, and continues to drive the tank. Like that was the most Bond thing ever. Like just you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
adjusting the tie was so chef's kiss. I was like, that is awesome. That I always laugh. I always laugh when I see it, even though I've seen it like countless times.
Did you notice who the statue was?
Wasn't it I don't know. Was it Lenin or something or
No, when I looked at the statue, I could be wrong, but I thought it was Saint Nicholas II. In some scenes or some like camera angles, it looked like it was, and other ones it looked like it didn't. So I'm not 100% sure on that.
I don't know what the statue is either. I thought it was like either a saint because the either the man or the horse had wings. I don't know. There were wings on it, but I don't know if it was on the horse or on the man. Like it was a guy on a Pegasus or if it was a winged man on a horse. That's a good question though. I assumed it was something like that was a callback to like the time of the czars is what I figured, but I don't know. That's a good question. I have to look that up. Huh?
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Hold on, let's pause real quick. I actually do want to know.
The statue atop the tank is not a real historical figure, but it's a fictional prop designed for the movie. The statue depicts a mounted soldier styled to resemble a traditional Russian military equestrian figure, like a Cossack or Red Army cavalryman, complete with a raised sword and a dramatic pose. It was crafted by the production team to look like a generic Soviet-era monument, evoking the kind of grandiose statues common in former Eastern Bloc cities. Director Martin Campbell and the art department chose this design to heighten the absurdity and chaos of Bond driving a tank through an urban setting, with the statue adding a humorous, almost surreal touch as it bobs along. So the real St. Petersburg streets feature other statues like the Bronze Horseman, but none were harmed or used in this way. Well, obviously not. They made a prop, but it's a made up thing. It's not a specific figure like Peter the Great. It's just a cinematic invention. But I guess you could see it as a generic Soviet era statue, like a monument of a guy on a horse with a sword. Yeah, they made it as a prop, but I mean, like it fooled me because it looked like something that could have been in St. Petersburg. So
Yeah, it's a great prop.
but it makes sense because Peter. It could be sort of like a nod to Peter the Great, hence St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
So it could be that. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess we don't really know. Like in the statue graveyard where he meets with Yanis, there's lots of like statues of like hammers and sickles and Lenin and Stalin. Mostly Lenin, I think.
Yeah.
All this stuff from the Bolshevik Revolution, and that's kind of like a theme throughout the movies too. Like even the opening music video, where you have Tina Turner's song playing. There's like women with big hammers and they're hitting sickles, and there's big Lenin, statues that just kind of recur, and there's even a woman with two faces. I don't know if you remember that from the opening, but she's like smoking a cigar out of one mouth, and there's a face on the back of her head that blows the smoke out.
Yeah.
So
I do remember that. The chase scene ends, and Bond stops at like the armored train that Aramov puts Natalia on. And when I first saw
Yeah.
this, I was just thinking like, you had a good shot at the train, like with the cannon. Like you could have just like shot the front of the train and like totally crippled it. But maybe I was thinking like maybe he wanted them to think that he got away.
Well, oh yeah, I see what you mean. But he didn't want Natalia to get hurt, although he didn't have a problem sitting in front of the train, which could have also hurt her.
Probably
But
even
I
worse
guess,
because the train at that
yeah.
point was moving at full speed versus being stopped.
I wonder though, because that was some kind of like Soviet like super train. It was like massive. I wonder if a tank could have even. I asked myself, could a tank stop a train like that? Because it's not like an Amtrak. That's like some armored military train, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were just going for what would make people freak out the most. We'll just put the tank in front of the train. In the tunnel too, so
That
it
probably
looks
does
like there's
make
no
for
way out,
it
right?
does make for better like movie making in that sense. It builds like suspense and
Yeah,
stuff where like the
and
shooting
he
it would just be
does
like
he does
whatever.
shoot. Yeah, and he does shoot the train with its cannon, and it doesn't seem to do anything except light the front of it on fire. Like
Yeah.
it keeps moving, right? The cannon doesn't do anything
Right.
from what you can tell. It's actually the tank on the tracks that stops the train. Even then, it sort of slows it down. Like I don't know if you've seen like have you ever seen videos of like buses or trucks that get stuck on the train tracks,
Yeah.
and the train just plows right through it, like even if it's just like an Amtrak or like a freight train or something.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's probably what it would look like.
So when they
So
bring or when Armov brings Natalia on the train, we can see that Trevelyan's also on the train. And he's like
yes,
kissing on her and all types of weird shit. And then he's like telling her like, "Oh, like me and Bond like shared everything or whatever." And I was like, okay, that maybe that was a little gay. I don't know. Like that line's a little weird.
I thought he was a little bit, what he's supposed to be, like, in a way. And this is another thing that I was thinking about too. Alec Trevelyan. So like there's no mention of a 006 in any other movies before this movie, right? From what I can remember. And I think I've seen all the Bond films, and there are obviously other double O's, but there are no specific mentions of a 006. And what I think they're doing too is it's like Alec Trevelyan is not just like this character, but he's also like a dark version, like a bizarro Bond. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I think that's what they were trying to do. He's like the evil version of James Bond himself. So when he gets like, when he like comes on to women, he does it like overboard, like, in the overly creepy way.
Right.
And I wonder if they weren't trying to like suggest something about, say, like maybe previous era Bonds, but this is kind of like an exaggeration. I don't know. I just think that that's another thing. He's like the evil Bond. That's essentially what he is. That's why he has the same watch. He claims that we are very much alike. We do the same things, and he knows him inside and out. Like it's kind of like what I think they're going for. It's like a dark shadow version of the Bond character.
It's almost a shame that he's only in this movie because he could have made like a really cool like recurring nemesis in a way.
Yeah, I mean they've done this with other characters where they've tried to do the same thing. Like I think the Scaramanga, who is like the main villain from The Man with the Golden Gun,
Hmm.
played by Christopher Lee, who is a total badass.
Yep.
He was basically also like the anti-Bond. Like he was also like this rich playboy, and he, and a great assassin. So it's something they've done before. I think with 006, it was a little bit more on the nose, but not that there's anything wrong with that. Sean Bean's great. Sean Bean he was approached to play Bond before he did that role. Like he was one of the hopefuls to play the character. So, yeah.
I think they made the right choice with Pierce Brosnan, but a Sean Bean Bond wouldn't have been bad.
No, I agree with you though. I think Pierce Brosnan is a better. He's obviously the clear choice. It's too bad that a lot of the other Bond movies that he was in were not as well written as GoldenEye, because like
namely Die Another Day.
Die Another Day. That's the one with the North Korean guys. Is that the one with Halle Berry?
Yep.
Yeah, that one's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's pretty bad. But like I like Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough. I think those are fine, but GoldenEye is way better than they are. And I think that Pierce Brosnan deserved better. Like he should have had the best people. And I think that they just felt, well, he can carry everything, right? And I don't know. But anyway, I digress a
The
lot. So
side tangent: the World Is Not Enough N64 game is very good. It's like a very much like halfway between GoldenEye and Nightfire. Would definitely recommend.
nice.
Um,
Was that on what console is that on?
it was on N64 and PS1, but they were made by
Ah,
different
oh,
studios, so the N64 version is way better.
that's weird.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
if you've never played Nightfire, it was definitely good enough to be its own movie. Nightfire is exceptional. That's on like the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. And they had a different studio
oh,
make the PC and Mac versions, which are like notoriously
yeah,
like kind of shitty. The console versions are
oh,
great though. The
yeah,
next scene, right? It's like kind of a continuation of the last one, but this is where like Bond blocks the train on the tracks with the tank, like coming into the tunnel.
yeah,
So he like
yeah.
shoots it to
And
slow it, and then ends up like hiding like in the
but
bushes, waiting for the crash.
don't forget, before that, when they realize what's happening, Xenia, she's looking. She like Sean Bean, like he's like 006 is looking out the front, and he sees the tank, and he's like, I can't believe that he's still like after us or whatever. And Xenia says he's going to ram us, and she has this like verklempt, like she's, oh my god, I can't wait, like it's so great. Like every time she does something, I love it. Like when she back in the Servanaya base, and she's like shooting everybody, and she starts like panting, and it cuts to Orumov looking at her like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" It's like so
Like,
good.
what did I get
Like,
myself involved with? This bitch is fucking
yeah,
maniacal.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I just want to return Rush to his former glory. What is this?
I didn't sign up
Great.
for this. Oh fuck. Um, so then Bond infiltrates the train and has 006 and Xenia at gunpoint, and then Aramov appears behind him with
Mhm.
Xenia at gunpoint, which is a little different from the game where you enter the room and like they're both in front of you.
Wait, he with Natalia. He's got
Yeah,
Natalia at gunpoint. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So then Aramov learns that Trevelyan is a Lian's Cossack, which he didn't know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. It's a crucial moment too, because it's where like
he
that whole
realizes that
thing.
006 is a betrayer, and so he
Yes.
starts to doubt
Yes.
a
And
little bit.
right. And that's where he says, you don't realize that he is a Lian's Cossack, he'll betray you. And he's like, is this true? And that's when, yeah, like he questions everything. And Trevelyan says, what's true is that in whatever, this amount of time we're gonna have more money than God or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was enough. That was enough to buy time, or a distraction to put Orumov in a vulnerable position where Bond could essentially take him out. Right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and he
Yeah.
Trevelyan goes 2 targets, 1 shot. Like what's going to be. Bond's
Yeah.
like, I don't give a fuck about that girl, but ultimately,
Yeah.
he does, turn around and kills Armov. So and then the other two escape, and the train like locks up with like shutters and everything all over the place. And
Yeah.
Trevelyan
Very
knew that
cool.
Bond would shoot Armov, so like he did end up betraying Armov, like really leaning into his Lian's Cossack background, which I thought was
Yes.
pretty interesting.
Yeah. Also very well done, because again, we know Alec Trevelyan knows Bond, so that's like one of the things that makes that the whole dynamic keeps things interesting, because it's not like Bond could like catch him off guard, because you just get the sense that he's always a step ahead, or at least evenly matched.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps it interesting. But yeah, he was willing to throw Ormov away. He was probably going to do that anyway, because because Orumov had different ideas about what all of this was heading
It's
towards.
almost like
He
the
had different
scorpion and the frog,
ambitions.
like he's like a Lian's Cossack. It's
Yeah,
just in his nature.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, so like the
they
train
lock
is like
up.
rigged to explode like after it gets locked up. And Natalia is using
Hmm.
the computer there to track Boris to figure out where they're going because they have no other leads.
Yeah,
The train, I think Trevelyan says something like, "I'm giving you as much time as you gave me," or whatever. And so Bond immediately knows,
yes,
like, oh, that means 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes. So he starts
yeah.
using, which this is also in the game, which is really cool, but using like the watch laser on the floor, just like to knock the floor
Oh,
panel
yeah,
out, just like to get out. Um, and right at the last second, she was able to, like, they figure out like the passcode, the whole like, what do you sit on and like can't take with you, which is like chair.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But she's trying to. She thinks, because she thinks it's something perverted. So
yeah.
she keeps putting different words for arse, and she's like, what is it? Something, another word for your butt, And he's like, what are you talking about? And then she explains the riddle, and he immediately goes chair. He goes immediately, just knows what it is.
So Boris is kind of like funny in that way because he's like, oh, like Natalia knows me so well that she would definitely guess it's like an innuendo, but I'm going to make it purposely not one because she would never guess it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like Boris finds out he's been traced. We find that like he's sitting at that new base in Cuba, which will be revealed later. And he just starts panicking and like ripping the server to pieces. But
Yes, that's
Natalia
right.
like completed the trace like before he could really do that. So then like they get off the train that blows up, and Bond and Natalia like make out, and and then decide to team up and head for Cuba, where they rendezvous with Jack from the CIA.
Oh yeah,
And
that another great character. I forgot about that one.
I've
Yeah,
seen
the
him in other
CIA
things. I don't remember his
contact.
name, but I've seen him in a lot of other things.
Yeah, I can tell you his name in just a moment because yeah, he's been in a lot of things. The guy is like, let me see, give me a second here because I think he's worth mentioning. He's like, yeah, Joe Don Baker. He's been in. Oh, he was in Mars Attacks. That's right. I love that movie.
Oh fuck yeah.
Yeah, he was the dad. He was the trailer park dad of Jack Black's character in that. But mostly, I think people know him from the Mars Attacks, Congo. He was in that. He's in a bunch of stuff. He goes way back. I think he's been doing shit since like the 70s. He's
He's
been working
definitely like a
since the
character
60s,
actor where you
actually.
can like recognize his face. Like, oh, like I've definitely
Yeah,
seen that guy before. But he
yeah,
was really good.
yeah.
He didn't have a ton of lines, but he was really good. You know, he mentions that like America will cover up like whatever Bond's doing in Cuba. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that like they've never detected anything in Cuba. So like they're not even sure that the satellite exists.
Yeah.
They say that
You know
it's
where
like a
they actually shot those scenes, the Cuba scenes are shot in Puerto Rico. And there is a military base in Puerto Rico.
oh
I think the satellite dish is in Puerto Rico too. I think because yeah, well, Puerto Rico. Well, I believe, and I don't know if I'm right about this, so maybe able to check. But just off the top of my head, my parents told me that the U.S. Made Puerto Rico a Commonwealth, a territory, so they can keep an eye on Cuba because we were in the cold, like the Cubans were communists, and so there are military bases on Puerto Rico. So I think that's where those last scenes are shot in Puerto Rico. I will
maybe that's
double
why
check
Trump
it, but I'm
wants
pretty sure that's
Greenland
right.
because Europe's getting a little
Yeah,
uppity these days.
that makes a lot of sense. Technically, Greenland is part of North America. You know that?
Yeah.
It's part of the North American continent. Yeah.
You know, I noticed like they talk about how like the Cuban satellite dish is like an exact copy from Cervanaya, but it looks completely different. So I don't know why it's labeled
Oh,
as an exact copy.
yeah.
The movie kind of makes the Americans look stupid until like the very, very end, like which we'll get to. But
Mm-hmm.
they make very like a ton of like references like throughout the whole movie that like the Americans are dumb and like the British are like more sophisticated and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, they're also like on the beach or whatever, and Natalia packs this like crazy hot like
Oh,
bathing suit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was kind of a weird little scene too. I don't know if it felt like that was shot after because like they just went through all of this stuff and then there are these scenes with them on the beach and it looks like they're on vacation and she has like this heart to heart with him sort of, but she's basically I don't know if she's trying to be like sympathetic or if she's being cold because it's a little bit that scene is a bit weird. Like she says, he was your friend and now he's your enemy and you will kill him, and he's like kind of wrestling with this and she says, "You think I'm impressed with your guns and your, and she's kind of fighting with them, but kind of not." I'm like, "What's going on here?" It's a bit of a weird scene. I don't know if you know what I mean,
Yeah,
but
it's a little out of
they,
place, and it was kind of like an excuse to like develop the relationship a little bit, but it kind of betrays the
yeah,
pacing a little bit.
yeah, that was a bit of it was awkward and it was sort of like, are you what? Because the thing is, the relationship between Bond and Natalia in this movie was mostly they were in survival mode for most of it. Like it's just like we're dealing with threats that are immediate in the moment, and the slow moments, which there are very few, that they just feel out of place. Like they're just trying to connect, and I don't know if they didn't have chemistry on set or what, but it just didn't. There was something off about it. Like
I
that
think that's
scene in
something that
particular
hurts Natalia's
is.
appeal is like it doesn't feel like her and Bond have a crazy amount of chemistry on set.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I feel like there are moments where it's okay. Like I think where they're in bed and I think she asks him, like that when we were on the train and you said that I meant nothing to you. Did you mean that? or would you let me die or something like that, and he was like sure, and then she gets mad, but then he's like obviously he's joking, or at least he says he's joking because he wants to get some more pussy, but I mean like what we don't know,
Guys
right? But
lying
he's
for pussy, that's never happened before.
yeah, that never happens, right? Yeah, I don't know. Like that, I think that scene could have used a little bit more work, or maybe because the only thing that, like, one of the things they do throughout the film is that characters have certain, like, either personality quirks that come up, ways that they behave, like the way that they speak, or they have like catchphrases or some combination of those things. Maybe there's a bit of dialogue that they engage in. And one of the things that Natalia and Bond had was there would be times where Natalia would, like, barely get out of some kind of scrape. Bond would get focused on accomplishing something, and then Natalia would sort of like sarcastically say something like, "I'm fine, thanks for asking." Right? She would basically passive aggressively like give him shit because he's not checking to see if she's okay, right? Because he's doing something else. Like when they're trying to get off the train before it blows up, she says, "Well, I'm fine, thank you for asking." Like after he saves her from Orumov.
Right.
And then it comes up again, and then I think like at the end of the movie it kind of reverses, where he says to her, "I'm fine, thanks for asking," like that. And we're supposed to see this as like a thing that they have together, but there's just not enough of it there for it to have an impact. And I only know about that because I've watched the movie so many times, like, oh, they're doing that thing again, but it doesn't really have the same weight. So I would say that's like one of the relationship between Bond and Natalia is one of the weakest parts of the movie, and I think it is, like you said, the reason why a lot of people don't think of Natalia as a good Bond girl.
Yeah.
It's not just because she's completely overshadowed by Xenia Onatopp, but I think it's also because she doesn't really bring something unique to the table. Like a lot of the other Bond girls have something. Sometimes it's just not good. Like Holly Berry was just like useless. Or like what's the other one? Denise Richards. Yeah, not good. Michelle Yeoh, is that her name? From she was like a partner, but she's just not romantic. Like there was nothing romantic going on there at all. So like there's a lot of but the older movies, I think they did pretty well. Yeah, I think it was just like a thing like that they struggle with. Eva Green in Casino Royale, Eva Green's character, that was good actually. They wrote that pretty well. But anyway,
Yeah, I wish that they would have done the I wish they would have done some of that like character development like while not betraying the pace. Like, like the next scene is when they're in the plane and they're like
yeah,
searching for the satellite. Like they could have been talking
yeah,
about that like while they were in the plane. And I think it
yes,
would have made for
exactly,
a better scene. But like
yeah,
they're in the plane and they're about to give up because they're like, okay, like maybe like we were totally wrong. Like maybe the trace is wrong. I don't know.
hmm
Like maybe it's a dead end. And this missile comes up out of the water and hits their plane. And I was thinking, like, man, if they didn't fire that missile, like they might have been okay. They might have
yeah.
just
I
left.
know. I thought that was a mistake. Like them shooting them down was they shouldn't have done it because they would have just given up or something. Yeah. So they make them the bad guys make the mistake of trying to kill Bond, which basically just reveals their position. So and the plane crashes and their Natalia's knocked out. Bond is passing out. Basically takes her away from the plane to safety and then passes out. And we don't know how long he's out for because it's like this thing where it might be a few minutes. It could have been longer. But he starts waking up when a helicopter comes and it sort of like comes into focus and someone is up there. And this is bad news, but they're not really like telling us,
Yeah.
what the issue
Like
is.
whether it's like
And
Jack
then
from the CIA coming to rescue them or whether
yeah,
it's someone to
whether
coming to
it's like
finish
the
them off.
Marines or yeah,
Yeah.
somebody coming to exactly,
And then it
exactly.
is the latter because Xenia comes down fucking geared up and ready to go.
Yep,
And
yep, absolutely.
they do their thing and they fight and she's still hot as fuck and all that. Um
Mm-hmm.
he ends up like connecting her like to the helicopter and then shoots the helicopter to make him like panic and try to like fuck off. And so she just
Mm-hmm.
gets pretty much, it was kind of a weird death because like they didn't show gore or anything, but she kind of like got pulled to death by this helicopter, being like braced against this tree. So it's almost like
Yeah.
kind of ambiguous in the way that she dies, but like it's obvious that that would kill someone, but just it would look very different, I think.
No, the way that she died was a little bit weird. I think that could have been. I guess they were kind of like trapped, right? Because the movie is PG or PG-13. I think it was PG. Because there wasn't a lot of bad language in it. The violence was like not. There wasn't really violence. I mean, there were people getting shot, but you didn't see a lot of blood. We needed to know that Xenia died, and she needed to die in a way that was kind of poetic, so she's crushed. But it didn't look convincing. You know, it looked like she's just kind of like stuck in the tree. And I don't know if that maybe they thought, well, if we have her twisted up in there, it might like we might lose like the PG rating.
Yeah. Well,
So
what the movie was PG-13, but I know that
13. Okay.
like PG movies back in the day used to get away with a lot more than they do now.
Hell
Like if
yeah.
this
I
movie came out
remember.
today, even with the exact same content, it would probably be rated R.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember this old fantasy film. I think it was called Sword and the Sorcerer, and it was PG, and there were just bare breasts in it, like slave girl breasts. It was a PG movie. We're like, what? So yeah, I mean, who knows what those things even mean anymore? I mean, they're constantly moving the goalposts on that.
Those
So.
and like ESRB ratings are fucking bullshit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like all this
Mm-hmm.
game's rated E, but here, like take your kids fucking or take your parents' credit card, kids, and buy a crazy amount of microtransactions and engage in like
Yeah.
real gambling. But you know, it's rated E. It's fine. So like,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just disregard both the ESRB and the MPAA and their stupid ratings. They don't really seem to mean anything.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a fair way to do it.
Yeah, it's just, you know, up to you as a parent to like kind of know what to expect and, you know, use your best judgment. Yeah, so then like after that, like the satellite gets lifted out of the lake where the missile came from.
Mm-hmm.
And Boris and 006 aim the GoldenEye at London.
About the satellite dish. So here's an interesting bit of trivia. So there is in Arecibo, Puerto Rico, is a place called the Arecibo Observatory, Arecibo. This massive radio telescope with its 1,000-foot wide dish nestled in a natural sinkhole served as the exterior for Alec Trevelyan's hidden base. So it's a real place. That's not fake. And it's actually surrounded by rainforests. So that's a real thing. That dish was real.
That's really
That
cool.
wasn't like, yeah. And it's got a suspended platform, a towering antenna. So that's where they shot it. It's a real place. It's called the Arecibo Observatory. Pretty impressive, huh? So
Very. Something I noticed was
I like when they use real shit.
me too. It makes every movie better. Something I noticed is that the soldiers are speaking Russian, which I thought was interesting because it's like, do they not know that Armov like just got like sacrificed? And also like, what kind of faction are they from? Because they're obviously not like regular like Soviet military. Because you know, I don't. So I don't know. That's not
Yeah, they
really
don't
well
even tell
explained.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that it was like an organized crime syndicate, so they could just have been like mercenaries, but we don't really know. They could have been Arumov's men. Maybe they're just like getting paid.
In the game,
maybe he bought them off. Like,
yeah, in the game, the honest operatives are dressed like distinctly different from like the Russians. But this movie doesn't really make that much of like an explicit like distinction.
No.
So then, like you see that Bond gets captured, right? And he slides his gun across the floor. After puncturing some fuel tanks and planting a timed mine, somehow the guards didn't notice the leakage or the beeping, which is kind of funny.
No, that was super weird. Like the liquid is like leaking everywhere, but no one noticed. Yeah, that was super weird.
Little sus. But Natalia's not there, and 006 knows that they're there, so he orders the soldiers to go find them. 006 takes Bond's watch and disarms the mine that he planted. Then 006... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say he's like, oh, it's a newer model or something like that. He says, do I still press here, right? And he presses it. Like he's telling him, I know what you did, and I'm going to undo it, right?
Absolutely, cool. Which makes him so menacing because it makes Bond like have to think outside the box and stuff like that in order to get away with shit. In this case, he kind of doesn't. He doesn't really anticipate that, but he gets saved by a Q gadget, which we'll get to. 006 then steals money and uses the GoldenEye to wipe record of the transfers. Like that's kind of like the plan, which is pretty interesting. Yeah. Especially with like the early computer tech of like the mid 90s.
Yeah, but it was also sending the economy of London to the Stone Age. Like it was just gonna like. So it was also hurting London economically while stealing a bunch of money. At least that's what he thought that the EMP was going to do that.
They should have just made George Soros the villain because he's done this before too.
Yeah.
So then, like, Boris has like the Q pen that, like, 3 clicks in a row and it'll start like the 4-second detonation. So Bond notices that Boris has it and he's like clicking it and playing with it like while programming. Trevelyan is not aware of this pen at all.
Again, they foreshadowed that because they show you from the beginning that Boris, while he's doing computer stuff, he has this tendency to fidget with his other hand.
Yeah.
And it's usually with a pen that he's clicking or spinning around or putting in his mouth. So it's like this fidget that he always did. And now you take this character quirk that they established earlier, and then you pair it with this dangerous, like, I guess is a chaos factor, which is this bomb that he doesn't know what it is. It's just another thing for him to fidget with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and the audience knows and Bond knows, and that's it.
And Bond, like, he just keeps clicking, sometimes just one, sometimes just 2 in a row, and like whatever. And Bond is just like carefully like sweating, like counting these fucking clicks, like
yeah,
like shit. Like, when is he gonna do 3, and then when is he gonna stop in enough time for it to blow up? Like. And it was actually really tense. And then, like, you also see, like, Natalia got into the system and broke Boris's code, which he's freaking out about. And then the grenade pen explodes, so Bond and Natalia get away. Natalia then, like, plays dead in the elevator, and, like, Bond, like, subdues the guard and gives Natalia his, like, Makarov pistol.
Yeah. He does this, though, the knocking the pen away, only when Boris loses his cool, which, of course, he never had. Because he's one of these, like, nerds that pretends to be in control, but he's really not. Yeah. And he's kind of at the mercy of all the people around him that are much, like, they may not be as smart as he is, but they're like, it doesn't matter. Like, they have more,
they're stronger than he
will
is.
They're stronger than he is, right? So he gets in Natalia's face and basically starts demanding. He thought he could break her code, but he can't. So he starts demanding that she give it to him, and that's when Bond takes advantage of that moment of weakness that Boris has to knock the pen away.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect observation. And then, like, we see that Bond has, like, an AK or whatever, and he's, him and Trevelyan are shooting at each other on the catwalks above the dish. It was funny, like, we were watching this, and my wife, like, recognized this scene, like, from the cradle level of the game. She's like, oh, I've seen you play this.
Yeah, right.
So then, like, you see, in the game, like, there are, like, these, like, engine rooms, I guess, like, which, like, control, like, the dish moving and whatnot. And in the game, like, they're just controlled by these, like, not servers, it's not the right, like, these control panels, I suppose, and you have to, like, blow them up and shoot them in order to stop them. But in the movie, there's, like, a chain, and he just jams, like, a pipe into it to stop it from being able to rotate into the proper position for the GoldenEye to fire.
Yeah.
So then Bond and Trevelyan fight, and you hear, like, you ever hear, like, the pipe falling, like, meme sound that people play on, like, soundboards and shit?
I do, yes.
It's in the, I'm pretty sure it's in the movie. And I think this is the earliest I've ever heard it. Because the other origin I knew it from was Battlefield 4, which obviously came way later, almost 20 years later. So is this the origin of the pipe meme sound? It might be.
It might be. I
kind of hope so.
That's interesting.
I would love for GoldenEye to be able to claim that.
That'd be, yeah.
So then, like, Bond, at the last second before getting shot in the face, escapes by letting down a ladder. And then they fight more, like, at the bottom, but above, like, the dish. Bond kicks Trevelyan and kicks him, but catches him from falling, and then decides to drop him.
And yeah, that's where you get the line. Again, this is one of the great lines from the movie, is when, because throughout the film, Trevelyan has asked him, for England, James. He said from the very beginning, right?
In the facility. Yep.
Yes, and then at this moment, James has a different answer, whereas before he would have said yes. This time he says no, for me, and then he lets him go.
Yeah,
and he falls to his death. And so so first of all, here's something interesting about that. That's actually the first Sean Bean death. That's what started Sean Bean dies in every movie, was this movie. This is the first one that he dies in. Yes. Huh. So this is the first movie of the Sean Bean dies in every movie meme. It started with GoldenEye. So I don't know if anybody knew that, but this is the first one. And
what a groundbreaking film.
Really interesting. I know. We got the pipe meme. We got the Sean Bean meme.
The I'm invincible.
We got the, I am invincible. Right. You got all of that. Right. You got the Xenia. But yeah, that was the first of the Sean Bean dies in every movie. That was the first one. And that disc, by the way, it was also used in a movie called Contact, which I think was about aliens or something. I think. So yeah, it's been used in other movies, but unfortunately, it collapsed in December of 2020. So
Sad.
the satellite dish no longer exists. Yeah, R.I.P. satellite dish in Puerto Rico.
R.I.P.
Also,
GoldenEye.
Val Kilmer. Yeah.
Is that real or is that an April Fool's thing?
What?
The Val
No, no,
Kilmer.
Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer died. Yeah,
They always do
he's
the
gone.
whole celebrity death thing on
I
April
know
Fool's
they
Day,
do.
which I actually think is really
Yeah,
tasteless and I don't like. Um,
it is
so
tasteless,
I
but
just
I
like
think this
ignored it when I
literally
saw it. I'm like,
happened.
all right, whatever, fuck you. I'm not falling for this again. But if it's real, like
Yeah,
that's awful. That sucks.
yeah. Well, he was very sick. Yeah.
R.I.P. So like when
So.
Trevelyan falls, he falls from a crazy height and he doesn't splat,
Mhm.
which you know,
No.
me and the wife were like, wait, no, he would have been turned into jello. Like he would have been gone.
Yep.
And then so like Bond boards a helicopter like to escape the explosion. The GoldenEye explodes and the
Yeah. The stunt man for that he fell 300 feet.
that's what I've heard.
Yeah. 300 feet on padding. I mean, obviously the landing where they show is Sean Bean, but it's like a short fall for that. But I mean, I still felt it though when I saw it in theaters. I was like, oh, like I'm sure you would have exploded like a watermelon.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
um,
And so
yeah.
then the thing is like then like the catwalk above that they're fighting on explodes and it falls on top of him
Hmm.
and he's still like conscious because
Yeah.
he sees it fall on top of him and like screams. And it's like, okay, like
Yes,
that part was
that's
like,
right.
to me, like that part was a little cheesy of him not splatting and then him like being awake still going like while the shit falls on him.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
a little
That's
cheese in
true.
that.
It's how it had to happen. I think Bond villains usually they have the most over the top deaths, and that's like dying twice. Like there was no way he was going to live through that, but like this is adding insult to injury, right?
Sure, that's fair.
So
And then
yeah,
we finally get the payoff here. Boris is in the server room and he shouts, "I'm invincible!" And then he gets frozen to death by liquid nitrogen and just frozen in that
yes,
pose and
because he
is
thought he
dead.
survived. He thought he survived, and that's the thing too. The liquid nitrogen thing, like that was again the '90s. Liquid nitrogen was so popular because of Terminator 2 that we just wanted to use it in everything. Like, we're like let's throw some liquid. Why was there even liquid nitrogen in the facility? Like, why was it even there? It was just a splash on Boris. So
Yeah. Well, they made good use of it at
yeah,
least.
no, they did. It's what everyone remembers about his death, which is a pretty bad way to go, I think.
Yeah, and then the movie ends. Bond starts making out with Natalia, and then the CIA, Jack, and Marines in ghillie suits show up, and they look awesome. It was like
That was very cool.
the last hurrah, after all the America slander in the movie. It made them look
Yeah.
cool.
No, it did. It did look really cool. That was another. It's another kind of thing out of Bond movies where he gets a moment alone with the woman, and then like the authorities show up or they call him or something. So it was sort of like a thing you had to have. But it was nice, and they have a little bit of a back and forth about getting on the helicopter or something, and she's like, "I'm not getting any more vehicles with you," because that was another thing they were trying to make into a thing where whenever they got into a vehicle, there was a crash or something would happen, and he just carried her off. He was like, "Well, what's the worst that could happen?" And it just kind of like, yeah, if I remember correctly, it kind of ends there. Like,
Yeah, the credits
they go
roll.
off into the sunset.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So
All in all, like
So
I
it's
think we both agree, like we love this movie.
yeah, yeah. GoldenEye is if you are introducing someone to James Bond films, GoldenEye is not a bad first out. I mean, I would generally say go with the earliest ones, but you don't have to watch them in any order because they usually don't reference other movies. They're kind of like standalone stories, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple
So,
exceptions. I
yeah.
think Quantum of Solace is like a direct Casino Royale sequel, isn't it?
Yeah, they tried to link it together because they were trying to like build something new, but I don't think they did a good job because it didn't actually follow up in a way that was meaningful. They kind of like abandoned some of the threads a little too quickly in Quantum of Solace as well as Spectre. I think they just dropped the ball on some of those. I didn't care for them at all.
I remember a criticism from back in the day was people who watched Quantum of Solace but didn't see Casino Royale. They said that they were very confused. I've never seen Quantum of Solace, so I can't say personally.
Yeah, it's not a good movie. Going back to GoldenEye, what makes a really good Bond film? You need certain things, but one of those things is you have to have a very menacing villain. Now you can present the villain in different ways. They could be highly intelligent, they could be highly physically dangerous, that whatever, but they have to be very menacing. You have to feel like James is in trouble for whatever reason. Like, oh, how's he going to get out of this one? And there's a few ways you can do it. GoldenEye did it very well, and they also did a very good job of presenting a whole bunch of different villains that all had different motivations, and they were all dangerous in their own ways. You know, from Xenia to 006 to Orumov to Boris, like they all had different things they were bringing to the table that made them like menacing in their own way, and then you were putting them all together. That's where the threat comes in. Quantum of Solace had like some environmentalist guy, and his like henchman was like just some like skinny dude. Like they did not look menacing or threatening at all. So you just never were worried about like these guys were so lame. That's the problem. Like Le Chiffre in Casino Royale, he wasn't like a super physical guy. He wasn't like, you know, a super soldier. He was just like a financier, but he was menacing because he had this like he had that look, and he was very good with cards, and he was like super like, you know, what is it, heartless. Like you just got this sense like, oh, this guy's, he may not personally be dangerous, but he like knows dangerous people, that makes him dangerous. Like he's super cool under pressure. Like there's ways to do it, you know. And I think that Quantum of Solace does not have that. Like there's just nobody in that movie that I'm like afraid of. They're not even mysterious. Like they're like, you know, there's nothing there. That's what I think keeps it weak.
Yeah, GoldenEye. This is final thoughts. An incredible movie. Love it. It's one of my absolute favorites. My main criticism really is that it's very fast paced, which is really good, I think, for multiple viewings. But if you try to introduce
Mhm.
someone to this movie, I think they're not going to get all the plot points the first time. But it's good enough to repeat watch. I think even for people who aren't like big Bond fans. So I don't see it as like that big of a flaw. But otherwise,
Yeah.
wonderful movie, and I would recommend it to pretty much everyone.
Yes, I would say one of my absolute favorites. Sometimes it's my number one, sometimes my number two, but it's definitely up there. It's either one or two, depending on the day. Usually, though, it's number one. And even though like it's like over 2 hours long. I don't know if you know that, but it doesn't really feel like it because of the pacing. It's like
Yeah.
2 hours and 10 minutes. A lot happens in this movie.
Yeah, so with
Yeah.
that said, thank you, Brian, for being here. I appreciate this. I look forward to doing another one very soon. And just tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. You guys can follow me on X at Badger Arcade, or you can go to my YouTube channel, Honey Badger Arcade. I do game streams, but I also talk about cultural news and other things like related to the arts and my passions thereof.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.